This is our presentation on the approach to nuclear energy and technologies.
Okay, so what do you think of when you hear the word nuclear? Perhaps you think of danger with nuclear explosions, or perhaps clean energy with nuclear reactors, or possibly even nuclear medicines and other such technologies. There's many different aspects of nuclear, and that makes it hard to find a singular solution. So we compile all these different aspects to present the following solution.
So this is our solution. Our solution is to allocate the money used in subsidizing nuclear energies to the further development of nuclear technologies. Keep in mind that this retains the same militaristic policies as before. So the implications. So first topic, environment and nature. So I wanted to ask the question, are the negative effects of nuclear energy on the environment worth it? So for example, nuclear energy contaminates the air, the water, and the flora and fauna around us. And so storage is a big problem. This is the Yucca Mountain Repository in Nevada, and this is radioactive waste. So radioactive waste is really harmful, as Nick will talk about later. And this brings up moral and ethical implications, whether it's right to burden our future generations with the storage of this hazardous material. And so this is flora and fauna. On the left, you can see the white-tailed eagle in the Chernobyl exclusion zone. So this eagle will suffer from increased mortality and decreased fertility as a result of the radiation. To the right, you can see the red forest, which is red because it's nicknamed the red forest because of the sheer contamination from the Chernobyl disaster. And then so this is a graph showing the atmospheric pollution of these chemicals due to the Chernobyl and Fukushima disasters. And this graph will show the ground contamination of the Chernobyl disaster. You see there's large contamination near Belarus.
Now on to the effects that nuclear energy has on human health. Despite the fact that humans receive plenty of background radiation from natural sources such as radon gas and from space in the form of, say, cosmic rays from like supernovas, the fact that radiation is invisible and is a silent killer when received in large doses greatly reinforces and increases the fears and negative stigma surrounding nuclear energy. And this is not helped by the fact that when received in large doses, radiation can greatly increase the risk for conditions such as leukemia. And due to the radiation released by these reactors, that means that over the coming decades, many small infants and other children will die as a result of the radiation being absorbed from these reactors. Here you can see a photo of some of the decontamination procedures that radioactive spillage and contamination requires. And the chemicals inside these nuclear reactors aren't very friendly either. They have short half-lives, are fiercely radioactive, and if they leak into the food chain like they did in Fukushima Daiichi, and they're subject to biomagnification. So, which means that if the fish, say in the ocean, in the Pacific Ocean nearby, for example in Fukushima, are not killed by the radiation, if someone eats these radioactive fish, they will feel the full brunt of the radiation and the effects on the human body. And also the half-lives means that if there is an accident, these areas will become extremely dangerous and uninhabitable for a long time, like Adam's photo showed. And finally, exposure to radioactive materials with long half-lives can cause genetic mutations. And here we see how radiation dose the risks for certain conditions greatly increase, especially in females, as age decreases. And here we see the effects that ionizing radiation has on the body, which can cause cell death, cancer, and other mutations due to the increased volatility of the atoms of the body.
So, anti-proliferation. Anti-proliferation is the stopping of the rapid spread of, in this case, nuclear technology and weapons. So, according to the U.S. Department of State, third world countries especially are particularly adept to adapting nuclear technology and researching in it and establishing a large nuclear program in hopes of creating more jobs as well as creating a more sustainable source of energy. But research in the reactors also is research into the nuclear bombs, and stopping the spread of this will also stop the threat of nuclear bombs to other countries. Subsidies are the allocation of government money to different industries and were originally intended to be temporary support towards these industries. And the government intervention into the energy market overall increases the price of energy due to nuclear energy being so inefficient and just inefficient. And so under the Energy Policy Act, federal loan guarantees are the biggest source of money for creating reactors, and cutting this funding towards our solution of putting it into nuclear technology will prove more beneficial as it develops.
So there are also definite economic benefits to our solution. The cost of nuclear energy is much greater than nuclear technology, and that provides less economic benefits. So as we can see here, nuclear energy has greatly overpassed its projected cost. So it's past the threshold of what we were willing to spend on nuclear energy, making it no longer economically beneficial. And as we can see here, these charts are from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. There's been a marked decrease in nuclear energy employment, whereas there's been a marked increase in nuclear technology employment, including those in healthcare. So it's more important to allocate the money there.
So for our solution, we want to move funds from nuclear energy into nuclear technologies. So one of these technologies would be irradiation, which is the usage of gamma rays to kill harmful bacteria towards crops. So this will help create a more sustainable crop and increase the overall production of it. Then we also have radiography, which is the scanning of patients' bodies. This helps us to diagnose patients. And then we also have radiopharmaceuticals, which are drugs that can also help us to diagnose patients and to treat diseases and illnesses.
So now we want to go over some limitations, so the disadvantages of our proposal. If we cut funding to nuclear energy, which has very little greenhouse emissions, as shown by this graph, compared to coal, oil, and natural gas, nuclear energy produces one of the lowest carbon dioxide emissions, and so essentially giving up nuclear energy would be a big shame because we would have to replace it with some of these which, hurt the atmosphere.
Now into some of the health limitations of our proposal. Using radiation to kill illnesses is not 100% effective because the diseases that radiation is used to cure, such as cancer, diseases such as cancer are known to recess after being eliminated with radiation and then come back with vengeance. And also, radiation being radiation, it's still not a 100% risk-free procedure because, especially with our radiation therapy, incorrect procedures can lead for the patient to be in much more suffering and risk than the doctor would have liked the patient to be in.
Furthermore, due to the health and environment limitations, there are definite economic repercussions of our solution. For example, because of the effects on the environment, coal and petroleum has 10 times more damage costs than nuclear energy. So therefore, it would cost us a lot more to use those in place of nuclear energy. Furthermore, by not allocating money to nuclear energy anymore, we cut off any possible progress for it to become a viable energy source in the future.
So here are other possible solutions, but we decided that these are not feasible. So the first one would be total dissolution or cutting off of funding of nuclear technologies and energy. So a benefit would be that there is less money going into a technology that's harder to develop, and there would be less radioactive waste, which is a big health and environmental concern. But we decided that this was not the best solution because there would be irreplaceable pieces of technology lost, and this would possibly decline the crop production and increase mortality rates.
So another option is to increase funding into energy and technology, but create stricter militaristic policies in order to limit this spread of technology to a select few. So some benefits of this is you further develop nuclear technology and open the possibility to it becoming more sustainable in the future. And also you get to limit the spread of nuclear technology to a select few individuals. But why we rejected these is it gives an even bigger advantage towards nuclear energy, creating a larger distortment in the market and raising energy prices overall again. And the select few could have corruption of this power and abuse it.
So after many hours of research and quite a bit of deliberation, we believe that our solution, which is to divert subsidies into nuclear energy and to put that money into nuclear technologies, is the best solution due to the triumph of the pros over the cons, and looking at the dangers of nuclear energy to the environment, and the benefits of nuclear technology like the environment and to human and overall health. We believe that our solution is the best. And here we have a small quote from Mark C. Jacobson. Every dollar spent on nuclear is one less dollar spent on clean renewable energy, and one more dollar spent on making the world a comparatively dirtier and more dangerous place. And we believe that this quote fits our solution, as we've seen from, say, Adam's research into the effect of nuclear energy on the environment, and some of the economic harm of nuclear energy due to over budgeting. We find that this quote really does fit, and brings out a message in our solution. And here are our sources.
Alright. So let me ask you guys a few questions. I'll start with you, Patrick. In what way did you improve your ability to work with the group as a result of this project?
I think that when we took all our individual aspects from our different lenses and collaborated them and created a coherent argument in that nuclear energy is not that good and nuclear technology is good, I think weighing out all the pros and cons together with all our research helped us collaborate as a group.
Alright. So can you tell me, let's see, who do I want to ask this question? Okay. Nicholas, can you tell me how the group decided to handle Ethan's perspective and lens?
I think that we decided to put Ethan's lens kind of like as a bit of an add-on, because not exactly like a lot of people think about the use for radiation and like sterilizing things and using it in like medical things. Most people, when they think of radiation, they think of like big scary explosions and a lot of like pain and suffering. But I think Ethan's, even though it's very small and relative to like the other slides, he only had like one slide versus like some of the many other pictures that we had. I think it really it helps like round out like the solution. It shows that, hey, nuclear technologies really is like a way forward, and here's like some of these really good examples that we can use to like push these technologies forward. So I think that's how we integrated it into our solution and slides.
Alright. Ethan, so can you describe an argument from one of your peers' individual reports that made you think differently about your solution?
So for when reading Isabella's argument about economics and how actually it's not very feasible to use nuclear energy, this helped to create our solution by actually diverting the funds from nuclear energy into what I had, which was nuclear technologies, and how it can benefit us.
Alright. Adam, in the future, what would you change to make your group, how would you change your group norms in order to improve a team presentation?
So sometimes we would have some miscommunications. For example, on some days Nick was absent, so we tried communicating through Google Hangouts, which was pretty effective, but I feel like it could be more streamlined if we go through email and multiple social media platforms to give our information across.
Alright, last but not least. So reflecting, I'm sorry, I already asked that question. What is a way in which your team's resolution makes you think differently about your own individual research?
Okay, so economics was mostly cons, whereas a bunch of their IRRs focused on the pros, for example, nuclear technologies, which would change the aspect. Because we were talking about nuclear energy at first, but we also had to divert for Ethan's nuclear technology, and furthermore, some of the economic, environmental pros, like low carbon emissions.
Alright, thank you guys.